Welcome to Sludge's weekly roundup. I'm your newsletter host, Josefa Velasquez. This roundup will include exclusive content for Sludge subscribers. We're hoping to bring you exclusive interviews with the people that shape and influence our policies and give you a behind-the-scenes look at how we come up with our stories and some of the stuff that was left on the cutting room floor that didn't make it into our copy. We're ad-free and we're really hoping to stay that way, but for that we need your help. Please become a member and subscribe to Sludge. If you like what we're doing, please share a link with your friends, family, neighbors, your barista, the guy who walks the dog. And we'd love your feedback. Tell us what you'd like to see. Tell us what you think we could improve on. So please reach out and email us at tips@readsludge.com, or you can email me, josefa@readsludge.com. Facing a changing political landscape on the left, an 8-member group of rogue Democrats have decided that they're going to rejoin the Democratic fold and rejoin the mainline Democrats come this fall in the hopes that there's a blue wave that'll elect at least 32 Democrats into the state Senate so they can retake the chamber. But given the energy on the left, these former members of the Independent Democratic Conference are coming under intense scrutiny, more so than ever before, and its fundraising apparatuses have also been under a magnet. So my colleague, Alex Kotch, is here with me and has explored the intricate and tangled webs that is the IDC's fundraising. So Alex, explain it like I'm 5. What is SICK? Who funds it?
So the SICC, or SIC, is the Senate Independence Campaign Committee. There's also a linked SICC Housekeeping Committee. These two committees were formed in 2016 after their predecessor, the IDC initiative, was disbanded after some campaign finance reporting errors. And so what this is these are funds, these are joint funds that have been formed by members of the former IDC, the Independent Democratic Conference of the state Senate, in order to fund and the campaigns of the IDC members, and also to make political expenditures that will help their campaigns, help them win re-election every 2 years. So what I found by digging into the New York State Board of Elections data was that a number of special interest groups were the primary funders of both of these committees. So that includes telecoms like Time Warner Cable, which now is owned by Spectrum, healthcare groups like the Healthcare Association of New York, several unions, and even a pro-charter school political group called New Yorkers for Putting Students First. And in addition to these entities, there are, I ranked the top 5 individuals who are giving to these committees. That includes finance executives like Daniel Loeb, and Greater New York Hospital. Right, yeah, he's a charter backer. So what he did was fund the New Yorkers for Putting Students First, which then funded the SICC. Also, David Rich, who's a lobbyist for another donor, the Greater New York Hospital Association, that gave a lot of money to the housekeeping committee that I mentioned. So we have a lot of special interests, mainly industry and union interests. That was kind of the first premise of the article we just published.
Right. So just to be clear, the Senate Independence Campaign Committee, the Independence Party, and these Democrats aren't the same, correct?
That's right. So these committees, the SICC and the housekeeping, were acting as party committees, but yeah, not for the Democrats. It was for the Independence Party, a third party in New York. But however, Democrats were the ones who were running these committees. Jeff Klein, who was the former head of the IDC, was in charge of the committees. He appointed 2 other Democrats to help run the committees as officers. So they were Democrats who were essentially working as Independence Party officials. And so a court ruled just this June that arrangement was in fact illegal, and if those committees were to continue, they would have to have only Independence Party officials running those committees. So the court decision left it somewhat vague as to how these committees and how the IDC campaigns were supposed to comply with the order.
Right. So what's the next step? I mean, are there any sort of enforcement actions? The primary is, less than a month away. can they continue to spend this money that they have illegally gotten?
Well, that's a gray area right now. You've got two sides saying two different things. The judge's ruling said explicitly that yes, they would need to have Independence Party members as the officers of the committees. But it also said, you need to do whatever is necessary to comply with the law. So because it was vague, the chief campaign finance law enforcement officer at the Board of Elections of New York, that's Risa Sugarman. She stepped in and sent a letter to all the parties involved in the lawsuit, saying, look, you need to, first of all, the IDC campaigns need to return the money they got from those two illegal committees. And then those two committees need to return the money they got illegally from these special interests. And the reason that money was illegal, too, was because these, in fact, were not party committees, yet they were accepting unlimited donations from these special interests. So, basically what happened was Risa Sugarman identified $1.4 million in illegal money. She said that needs to be returned. The IDC members, their committees, their lawyers are all saying that no, they're not going to return it because now those committees are in compliance with the law. They did make the changes actually preemptively in April because they knew what was coming in order to get Democrats out of the officer positions of those committees. So right now, my understanding is that this isn't over. There's going to be more. I do think that the enforcement agency within the Board of Elections is probably going to come back with something else, but we don't know when, we don't know what. In the meantime, the campaigns of the ex-IDC members are spending this money and continue to get money from those two SICC committees.
Right. And we're not talking about chump change here. This is millions of dollars, and they're running really, really tight races in some instances. So this money could be the difference between them winning or them losing, essentially.
That's right. If you check out her story, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars have flowed from these committees to the IDC members in the form of fund transfers to their campaigns, and also in terms of political expenditures like television ads and things like that. So the money is in local races like this. The money it makes a big difference, and so a lot of people, the IDC challengers, these progressives who are running to unseat them, are pretty concerned about this, and they've spoken out quite a lot about it. But let's step back a little bit. I want to ask you, Josefa, over the last few years, how has the IDC helped Governor Cuomo, and what have they gotten in return?
Yeah, so the IDC is sort of this really special thing where you try to describe it to people and their eyes sort of glaze over and they ask themselves, how is it possible that this is occurring in a blue state? So it's important to point out that the further upstate New York, the more conservative it becomes and the more it becomes like the South. So really New York is a purple state, and Cuomo was elected as a Democrat but has been, very fiscally conservative. And the few years that there was a Democratic majority in the state Senate, which was 2009, 2010, chaos erupted, like complete and utter chaos. So by having the IDC in place, Cuomo can claim progressive victories because the IDC aligns with Republicans. So he can say, I have ushered a bipartisan $15 minimum wage, even though it's sort of a Franken wage that isn't actually $15. So he can claim, I worked well across the aisle. But on the other side of things, if there was a Democratic majority, there would be more robust progressive issues that have become law in New York. And Democrats say that things that have happened have been watered down significantly. So by having the IDC in place, it sort of puts the brakes on Democrats. And, things that Democrats want, like single payer, are expensive. And we're facing a budget deficit that's growing year out. So by having, Republicans control the state Senate, you sort of pump the brakes on a lot of these issues that cost millions of dollars to implement.
Right, and I'll just add that as we approach the September primaries in New York, one of the agenda items of Democrats that the Republican Senate and the IDC have blocked are election reforms. We have of some of the sort of least accessible elections in the country in New York State, believe it or not, and they've kind of stood in the way of modernizing that and making it more accessible to voters.
Absolutely. And just sort of taking a step back and seeing how this plays out nationally, Cuomo has had presidential ambitions. That's no secret. He's always compared to his father, Mario Cuomo, who is this liberal icon and a great orator. And he's part of this state that's seen as very blue and has been able to shepherd big pieces of legislation, whether it's same-sex marriage, gun reforms. Now it's tuition for or free tuition for certain students. So he is trying to place himself as this centrist Democrat that can appeal to both the right and the left. But given how things are changing in this country and, the aftermath of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's win against Joe Crowley, maybe people don't want a centrist. They want a lefty Democrat, to put it colloquially. And this partnership with the IDC that Cuomo has helped foster can actually hurt him significantly in the long run. If something like this were to have happened in Congress, you bet your ass that everyone would be talking about it. So this has sort of been like New York's little dirty secret that no one really knew about outside of like the New York City media market. And it's gotten a lot of national attention in the last few months as, the landscape on the progressive left has changed.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. Seems like a good time to wrap this up for today, but stay tuned for a lot more of these videos from Sludge as we continue our investigative reporting.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Alex. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.